Be me, 48 years old, tenured professor of sociology at a respected state university. Spent the last 23 years teaching, writing, speaking. Wrote 3 books. 2 of them actually sold pretty well. Not famous exactly, but known in certain circles. Get invited to give talks, serve on panels, that sort of thing. My specialty is family structures, labor markets, demographic transitions. Built my career on rigorous analysis of how family expectations limit women's economic participation. The data was always there, clear as anything. Women who had children early earned less over their lifetimes. Women who married young had fewer career options. The division of household labor remained stubbornly unequal even in dual-income homes. I presented these findings to thousands of students over the years, showed them the charts, the regression analyses, the longitudinal studies, taught them to see the patterns, how motherhood was a career penalty, how marriage often meant women doing a second shift of unpaid labor, how the nuclear family model emerged from specific economic conditions that benefited men. I wasn't telling them what to do, I told myself, just showing them the reality, giving them information to make informed choices. But of course, I had opinions. When students came to office hours, worried about timelines, about biological clocks, I told them those concerns were internalized patriarchal pressure, showed them statistics about career progression in their 30s, reminded them that their male peers weren't worrying about these things, told them to focus on building something solid first. There would be time later, I said. Technology was advancing. I said. They had options, I said. Yesterday, something happened. Annual alumni event for the department. I usually skip these things, but the dean asked me to attend. Something about donor relations, maintaining connections. So I went. Open bar, decent catering, bunch of former students now in their 30s and 40s. I'm standing there with my wine, making small talk. Woman approaches me, probably late 30s, says she was in my intro seminar back in 2008. Remembers it changed her whole perspective. She's a regional director now for a consulting firm. Great salary, just bought a condo. She's beaming as she tells me this. I smile, ask the usual questions. Then I notice she keeps touching her ring finger, even though there's no ring. Nervous habit, maybe? She asks if I remember the class discussion about opportunity costs. Of course I do. I've taught that unit 100 times. She tells me she broke up with her boyfriend that semester. He wanted to get married after graduation, start a family young. She knew that would mean compromising her career trajectory. My class helped her see that clearly, she says. Helped her have the courage to choose herself. I nod, say something encouraging. She's quiet for a moment, then says she wonders sometimes, trails off, asks if I keep in touch with many former students. I don't really, but I say sure some. She tells me she's noticed something. A lot of the women from our program, the ones who really took the message to heart, they're successful, accomplished, but a lot of them are also alone. She says it almost like a joke, laughs a little, but her eyes aren't laughing. I make some comment about how success looks different for everyone. She nods, touches that empty ring finger again, says she has to go, networking to do, walks away. I stand there, look around the room with different eyes now. There's Sarah, published author, graduated 2005. Remember her coming to me crying because her then-husband wanted her to pause her dissertation to have a baby. I helped her see how that was a control tactic. She got divorced, finished the PhD, published 2 books. She's here alone tonight. There's Michelle, nonprofit executive, graduated 2009. She took my seminar twice, once as an undergrad and once when she came back for her master's. I wrote her a recommendation letter for a fellowship. In it, I praised her commitment to her work above all else. She's talking to another alum, but I notice the conversation is strained, polite. There's Rebecca. She was in my advanced seminar in 2012. Brilliant student, razor-sharp analysis. Came to office hours once to talk about whether to freeze her eggs. I told her that was a personal choice, but asked her to consider why she felt that pressure. Who benefited from women feeling rushed into reproduction? What assumptions were embedded in the biological clock narrative? She decided to focus on making partner at her firm first, made partner at 39. No kids, though. I start counting in my head. How many former students are at this event? How many of them are women over 35? How many are alone? How many have children? The ratio is not what I expected, not what I want to see. I feel something cold in my stomach. Tell myself I'm being irrational. These women made their own choices. I just provided information, analysis, framework. But that woman's comment keeps echoing. A lot of them are also alone. I leave early, claim a headache, drive home to my own empty house, pour another glass of wine, open my laptop, start going through old emails, former students reaching out over the years, asking for advice, recommendations, just checking in. I search for certain keywords: boyfriend, engaged, married, children, pregnancy. Read through the emails chronologically. 2007. Student writes asking for advice about boyfriend who wants to move in together. She's worried about losing focus on her thesis. I told her to prioritize her intellectual development. Relationships at that age are usually temporary anyway. 2009. Student asks if she should take a job in another city, even though her fiancé can't move. I told her not to compromise her career trajectory for someone else's limitations. 2011. Student writes that she's pregnant, asking about maternity leave policies. I responded with information, but also sent her an article about the motherhood penalty in academia. Wanted her to make an informed choice, I told myself. 2013. Student in her early 30s, in my office crying. Her partner gave her an ultimatum, marriage and kids now or he's leaving. She felt pressured, controlled. I helped her see that ultimatums are manipulative, that she shouldn't be rushed into life-altering decisions, that she had time. 2015. Former student emails, she's 36, just ended a relationship. He wanted children. She wasn't ready. I wrote back something supportive about knowing your own needs. 2016. Different student, similar story. 2017. Another one. 2018. Former student writes that she's almost 40 and trying to get pregnant. It's not working. IVF is expensive. She sounds frightened. I sent her some resources, but I didn't know what to say. 2019. Student emails that she's 42, been doing IVF for 2 years. It's not going to happen. She's grieving. Asks if I remember her from my class in 2003. Says my teaching really influenced her path. I stare at that email for a long time. It's still in my inbox. I never responded. Didn't know what to say. Close the laptop. Sit in the dark. Think about my own life. I never married. Never had children. Told myself it was a choice. Told myself I was modeling an alternative path, showing younger women that fulfillment didn't require those things, that a life of the mind was enough. And it has been enough, mostly, hasn't it? My work matters. My research contributed to important conversations. I helped women see the structural forces limiting their choices. But did I? Or did I just convince them to limit themselves differently? The wine isn't helping. I think about the data I used to cite. Women with children earn less. True, that's true. But women without children are also less happy in middle age and beyond. That data exists too. I just never emphasized it. I think about the studies on marriage and household labor. Yes, Women do more housework on average, but married women also report higher life satisfaction than never married women, especially after 40. I knew that data too, never taught it. Didn't fit the framework. I think about the biological clock narrative I dismissed, called it patriarchal pressure, social construction, fear-mongering. But fertility does decline with age. That's not a social construction. That's just biology. Basic biology I encouraged women to ignore, or to think they could outsmart with technology. I pour another glass. Think about my own classes. Remember specific moments with sudden, horrible clarity. The time a student said she wanted both career and family, asked how to balance it. I told her the question itself was problematic. Why should women have to balance what men never question? The system should change, not women. Technically true, but the system didn't change. And that student is 38 now, still waiting for the system to change, still alone. The time I taught the unit on marriage as an economic institution, explained how it historically benefited men at women's expense, showed them the statistics on divorced women's economic outcomes, taught them to see marriage as a risk, didn't teach them about the benefits, the emotional support, the partnership, the shared life, the data on married people's health and longevity. That data existed too. I just thought it was less important than women's economic autonomy. The time a student came to me at 23, engaged, asking for life advice. I asked her what she wanted to do with her life. She said she wanted to be a mother. I told her that wasn't a career. Told her she was too young to know what she wanted. Told her to finish her degree first, work for a few years, then reassess. She broke off the engagement, got a master's degree, worked in marketing. Where is she now? I don't know. I take out my phone, start scrolling through social media, something I rarely do. Search for former students, find their profiles, scroll through their lives and pictures and updates. Successful careers, yes. Travels, accomplishments, degrees, promotions. But there's a sameness to them after a while. Photos of pets, not children. Photos of friends, not partners. Photos of accomplishments that seem to echo. One former student posts about her 40s being her best decade yet. The comments are all from other women saying the same thing, trying to convince themselves, trying to convince each other. I recognize some of the names in the comments. Other former students, all around the same age, all saying similar things. Another student posts a long reflection on chosen family, about how she's created her own community, how she doesn't need traditional structures. The post feels defensive. The comments feel defensive. I keep scrolling, find a former student's wedding photos, feel a little relief. At least one of them. Check the date, married at 41. Her face looks radiant, but also like she's trying not to think about timelines. Another wedding. Woman I taught in 2008. Married at 39. See her posting 2 years later about fertility struggles. IVF cycles. Then nothing. No pregnancy announcements. Just photos of her and her husband trying to look happy. I close the app. This is not research. This is not data. This is just me torturing myself. But I can't stop thinking. I built my career on rigorous analysis, on following the data. So let me follow it now. I open my laptop again, pull up my old course rosters, cross-reference with LinkedIn, social media, anything I can find. Spend hours building a spreadsheet. Former students, their current ages, relationship status, children. Focus on women who took multiple classes with me, who engaged deeply with the material, who I know I influenced. The numbers tell a story I don't want to see. Women now in their late 30s and 40s, the ones who really absorb my teachings. Career success rate, high. Marriage rate, no. Children, even lower. I run the same analysis on my male former students. Their marriage rate is higher. children, much higher. They got the career success and the family, exactly like I always said they did, exactly like I told the women was unfair. I told them to refuse to accept that inequality, to demand the system change. The system didn't change. The women who waited for it to change are now too old to have children. The men moved on with their lives. There's a study I remember, something I read years ago and dismissed, about women's happiness trajectories over the life course. I pull it up now. The data shows women's happiness declining sharply after 40 if they're unmarried and childless. When I first read this, I thought it was internalized sexism. Women feeling bad because society told them they should. Not real unhappiness, just socially constructed dissatisfaction. But what if I was wrong? What if the unhappiness is real? What if I convinced thousands of women to walk directly into it? I think about my own happiness. I'm not unhappy exactly. I have my work, my research, my books. I have respect in my field. But I'm alone. I've been alone for a very long time. I told myself it was a choice. Was it though? Or did I just convince myself that the path I ended up on was the path I wanted? I think about the women at last night's event, the ones who thanked me for my influence, the ones who said I changed their lives. Did I change their lives for the better? They got careers, they got independence, they got freedom from traditional constraints. What else did they get? Loneliness, regret, empty homes. I think about demographic data, fertility rates collapsing across the developed world, later marriages, fewer children. I taught classes about this, treated it as evidence of women's liberation, women choosing themselves, rejecting patriarchal expectations. But what if it's not liberation? What if it's just mass delusion? What if I contributed to mass delusion? Taught thousands of women to delay and delay and delay until it was too late. I remember a conversation with a colleague years ago. She was more conservative, questioned some of my approach, asked if I was concerned about pushing students too hard in one direction. I said I was just presenting the data. She said data always has to be interpreted. Interpretation involves values. What values was I emphasizing? I got defensive, said I was helping women see through patriarchal narratives. She asked if I was creating a different narrative they couldn't see through, one that might limit them just as much. I dismissed her. Thought she was being reactionary. Now I wonder. My phone buzzes. Email from a former student. Subject line, long time no talk. I almost don't open it. I do. She's writing to let me know she's thinking about my class a lot lately. She's 44 now. Just went through a difficult breakup. Her last chance at having biological children probably gone. She's trying to make peace with it, telling herself she made the right choices, prioritized the right things. But some days, she's not sure. She remembers me telling her class that women didn't need children to be fulfilled, that there were many paths to a meaningful life. She's asking if I still believe that, if I've lived it and found it true. She wants to know if it gets easier. The loneliness, the wondering, the regret. I stare at the email for a long time. What do I say? Do I lie? Tell her yes, it's fine, I'm fine. This life is good. Do I tell her the truth? That I wake up sometimes in the middle of the night terrified. That the silence in my house feels like death. That I wonder what I've built all this for. Who I'm building it for. That every award and publication feels emptier than the last. That watching my colleagues with their children and grandchildren feels like looking through a window at a life I can't access. That I'm not sure anymore what I accomplished, except convincing thousands of women to end up exactly like me. Alone. I close the laptop without responding. I can't. I don't know what to say. Think about my books, the arguments I made, how confident I was. How certain. Marriage and family as patriarchal institutions. Motherhood as economic trap. Women needing to prioritize themselves, their careers, their independence. All of it backed by data. All of it logically sound, all of it true in some sense. But was it the whole truth? Did I show them what they'd gain without being honest about what they'd lose? Did I help them understand the trade-offs? Or did I just convince them there were no trade-offs, that they could have everything later, that biology was negotiable, that human connection was optional, that they had time? They didn't have time. I think about my influence. 23 years of teaching, thousands of students, most of them women, most of them taking my classes at formative ages, early 20s, mid-20s, exactly when they were making crucial decisions about relationships, careers, timelines. I shaped those decisions. I know I did. They told me so, thanked me for it. And now those women are in their late 30s, early 40s, mid-40s. The window closed. For most of them, the window is completely closed. No amount of IVF or egg freezing or hoping will open it again. The choices are locked in. The consequences are permanent. And I did this. Not alone, obviously. There's a whole culture, whole economic system. But I was part of it. I was an influential part of it. I had a platform. I had credibility. I had data and arguments and rhetorical skill. And I used all of it to convince women to make choices that benefited them in the short term. Career advancement, economic independence, freedom from traditional roles, without being honest about the long-term costs, isolation, childlessness, regret. I think about the men I taught. I taught them too, of course, but the message was different. I taught them to examine their privilege, to understand structural advantages. But I never told them to avoid marriage or fatherhood, never told them those things would trap them. Some of them probably absorbed messages about being cautious, but not the same way. Men don't have the same biological constraints. They had time in a way women didn't. And I knew that. I knew the asymmetry. And I still told women to act as if the asymmetry didn't matter. Told them to act as if they had the same timeline as men. Told them biology was just a patriarchal narrative. It wasn't. It isn't. And now there's a whole generation. My students, my readers, women who attended my talks, women who are demographically, statistically, measurably different from previous generations, more educated, more accomplished, more independent, more alone, fewer partnered, fewer with children. Is that progress? Is that what I wanted? I think about the demographic collapse I used to reference in my work. Falling birth rates across developed nations. I framed it as women's choice, women opting out of traditional roles. But what if it's not really choice? What if it's confusion? What if it's delay until it's too late? What if it's women believing they have time when they don't, believing the system will change when it won't, believing career success will be enough when it isn't? I pour another glass of wine even though I've had too much. Tomorrow I have class. I'm supposed to teach the same unit I've taught for 20 years, the one about family structures as tools of patriarchal control. I don't know if I can do it. Don't know if I can stand in front of another group of 22-year-old women and tell them the same things I've been telling them. Knowing where it leads, knowing what it costs. My phone buzzes again. Another former student, different one. She saw on social media that I'm teaching this semester, wants to know if she can sit in on a class. For old time's sake, she's 46 now, never married, no children, vice president at her company. She says my teaching changed her life, gave her permission to want different things. She wants to recapture that feeling, that sense of possibility. I want to scream, want to write back. What possibility? The possibility to end up alone. The possibility to prioritize a career that won't comfort you when you're old. The possibility to be free from connection and love and family. That possibility. But I don't write that. I write back something polite. Say she's welcome to sit in. It will be good to see her. I'm lying. It won't be good. It will be devastating. It will be looking at the direct evidence of what I've done. I think about my own mother. She had 4 children, stayed home with us, didn't have a career. I used to pity her, thought her life was small, limited by the expectations of her generation. She died 5 years ago, surrounded by her children and grandchildren. The funeral was full of people whose lives she'd touched. She seemed happy, most of her life, connected, needed. My funeral will be different, smaller. Colleagues, former students maybe, people who respected my work, but who will grieve me as a person, who will miss me not for what I accomplished, but for who I was. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. There's a photo on my shelf, group photo from a conference in 2011, bunch of feminist academics, all women, all roughly my age. I scan the faces, try to remember their personal lives, most of them unmarried, most childless, all accomplished, all respected in the field, all alone. We built this together, this framework, this ideology, this path. We convinced ourselves and each other, convinced a whole generation of young women that this was liberation, that this was progress, that this was the way forward. But where did it lead? To what? I think about the man who outsmarted us. There's no single man. But maybe that's the point. Men collectively just lived, didn't overthink it, didn't build elaborate theoretical frameworks to justify their choices, wanted careers and families, took both, didn't wait for permission or for the perfect system, just lived. And now they have children, they have families, they have continuation. The women who listen to me. We have careers, we have independence, we have freedom, we have regret. I sit with that. The regret, mine and theirs, the irreversibility of it. These aren't women in their 20s who can course correct. These are women in their 40s. The door is closed, locked. I can't undo what I did, can't give back the years I told them to spend on other things, can't restore their fertility, can't create the families that don't exist, the children who were never born, the grandchildren who will never be born. Generations erased, not through catastrophe, but through ideology, through my ideology. I think about going in tomorrow and teaching differently, telling them the truth, all of it, the costs alongside the benefits, the regret alongside the achievement. But would they listen? I'm still the same person, still credentialed, still respected, still persuasive. If I tell them to be cautious about delay, will they listen? Or will they dismiss me as having internalized patriarchy? The way I would have dismissed someone telling me this 20 years ago, probably the latter. The framework is too strong, the narrative too compelling. Young women want to believe they have time, want to believe biology is negotiable, want to believe career success will be enough. I wanted to believe it too. Taught it because I needed to believe it. And now, here I am, surrounded by evidence that it isn't true, that it was never true, that I sold thousands of women a story that ended in emptiness. My phone sits there. The unanswered email sits there. Tomorrow's class looms. I don't know what to do. Don't know how to fix this. Can't fix it. It's too late. For me, for them, for all of us. We won the argument. Women don't need marriage or children. Women can focus on careers. Women can be independent. We won. And losing might have felt better than this.